Hi guys, welcome back. Oh my God, welcome to the Sunday Supper edition. The Sunday Supper edition of Unhinged, the Omarosa story. First off, I gotta thank all of you guys, all my cabinet members, for your support. It has been insane, unexpected, and greatly appreciated, my dears. They played our readings on 99.5 DC Top 40 Radio. Like, they made an edited version. You know that was a lot of goddamn work, because you know the way my mouth set the fuck up. I know the editor went in on them goddamn recordings, bitch. Okay, but thank you to 99.5. Thank you to you guys for your support. You know, the donations. Like, this is insane. I announced earlier today I am starting my official podcast September 4th. Secretary of Shade with DDM. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube. Make sure you share the YouTube. Add me on Instagram at GODDM. I can't thank you enough. Like, this shit is crazy. But nevertheless, because our shows come on tonight, we got Power on at 8, Insecure come on at 10:30, and the way my curfew set up, bitch, I need my beauty rest. Now, tonight, we're going to cover the transition. We're going to cover some of these meetings that Donald had with these celebrities. This shit is a mess, bitch. I don't know if y'all have gotten a chance to read the book or not, but it's a goddamn mess, okay? So we're going to start right after the election. When Donald wins and we're all upset, we're like crying and fucking totally pissed. This is where we start off. The Transition, Chapter 10. Donald's first order of business as president-elect was to travel to Washington, D.C. and meet with President Barack Obama at the White House to discover the successful transfer of power. According to the official line on the 90-minute meeting, it went well. Trump said afterwards, "I have great respect for Obama. We discussed a lot of different situations, some wonderful and some difficulties. I very much look forward to dealing with the president in the future, including counsel." Lies. It was theorized in the press that since Trump had never worked in government before, he'd rely on Obama for guidance during the transition and beyond. Now, we know good and goddamn well he wasn't going to be going to no black man to ask for advice or help. His ego not going to let him do that. But nevertheless, it was the last time the two men ever discussed anything of substance. So, bitch, this was the last time that, like, they ever had, like, real words, bitch. Okay. This comes as no surprise to me. Donald has told me he thinks Obama is a fraud. He questions his nationality, his citizenship, his scholarship. He's demanded to see Obama's birth certificate, his passport, and his Harvard transcripts. In 2011, Trump told the Associated Press, "I heard he was a terrible student." Terrible. How does a bad student go to Columbia and then to Harvard? I'm thinking about it. I'm certainly looking into it. Let him show his records. So, bitch, who are you this shit really annoys me. Who are you to ask somebody for receipts? Like, bitch, we still ain't seen your taxes. But that's another story altogether. When I would challenge Trump on his erroneous assessment of President Obama, he would say, "Omarosa, you only support him because he's black, and he hasn't done anything for the black community. Look at his Chicago. It's a mess. His people are dying, and he does nothing." In Trump's mind, Obama made up his credentials as a community organizer, and this became a common rant starting in 2007 and continuing to this day. He's a fraud. He's a phony. Organizer? What is that? They hyped him up and made him out to be some big shot, and he's not. He said many, many times over and over for years. I believe Donald Trump was incapable of believing a black man could be all that Barack Obama is, and he was determined to expose him. Now, this is like, I mean, you've had black leaders criticize Obama on these things, when your own community says these things, and Chicago does have some shit going on. We're not disputing that. We all watch the news. We all see what's going on. We see reports. Okay? So I get that. What's going on, Philly? Our sister city, Baltimore City. But I get that, but you got to check him. You got to check him. The irony is, Trump himself has greatly inflated his own wealth. Bitch, we already knew that. He has said that he graduated in the top of his class, which has been proven to be untrue. Trump is the only one who has the sketchy bio, and he overcompensates for it by attacking Obama to feed his base. See, bitch, the problem I have is, Omarosa, you saying this shit now, but on TV, after the election, the Trump team was fully aware that the election had been contentious, to say the least, and that half the electorate was still reeling from the results. A smooth transition from the Obama administration to Trump's could go a long way to calming down the jittery public. Between Election Day on November 8th and the inauguration on January 20th, there were only 73 days to form an entire government. The clock was ticking. And unfortunately for everyone on the Trump train, we were moving at a crawl. The presidential transition, mandated by law, I didn't know that, is a critical time for any incoming administration. It sets the tone for the years to come, in style and in staffing. When Obama took over from George W. Bush, his transition was praised for being seamless, upholding his no-drama Obama reputation. Bitch, he ain't had no choice for it to be seamless. If a black man did all of this shit that Donald Trump is doing and had this kind of chaos, we would never hear the end of it. He would get dragged through the press. It would be a mess. So, no shade, when you black and you in a situation like this, you already know you got to come with your T's crossed and your I's dotted. So, of course, Obama shit was together, bitch. What you thought? He was playing? Nevertheless. Trump's transition was chaotic from day one. Governor Chris Christie, fat ass, tapped to lead the transition during the course of the campaign, was fired on November 11th, and most of Christie's loyalists were purged. The driving force behind Christie's outing was Jared. Remember, Jared is Ivanka's husband, okay? Listen, we thought it was because we thought Christie got fired because of that bridge shit, and we thought he got fired because he would challenge Trump. Listen to why he really got fired. He had forgotten that Christie forgot, as New Jersey's U.S. attorney prosecuted Jared Kushner's father, Charles, for tax evasion in 2004. Bitch! Did you know that? I did not know that. So Chris Christie he was dead in the water. Looking at it, he was already dead in the water because he had tried Jared's father. So Jared had been waiting for his ass the whole time. So basically what they did, they basically used Chris Christie to get more support and to help with the campaign. Then after they won, they had already been planning to fire his ass, even if that bridge shit didn't happen. Wow. Vice President-elect Mike Pence took over the transition chairmanship with an enormous job to do in precious little time. Not only did the incoming administration have 4,000 jobs to fill, from high-level cabinet and cabinet equivalent posts, shout out to the cabinet, bitch, to rank-and-file positions known as Schedule C. Pause. Now, Schedule C positions are like people who run paperwork, research policy, precedent, things like that. They're not really that high on the food chain. It's just like, most of the time, it's like people that worked in the campaign that were like real low level, but made an impact on impression. And they'd be like, all right, bitch, you can say you work for the White House. Here's the Schedule C. But it ain't like that. You know, you report to like the people like Betsy DeVos, the people that work for her, like her lower level people, those are Schedule C employees. The people that work under Ben Carson's administration, those are Schedule C employees. They ain't really shit, no shade to Schedule C people, but they ain't important, you know. They just work in the White House. They had to review existing agencies, set policy agendas, ensure that day-to-day operations continued to function, and divest from businesses that would be a conflict of interest. No small matter for Trump, because you know he got a conflict of interest, bitch. One of the first orders of business was for President-elect Trump to appoint a chief of staff. On November 13th, Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC, was tapped for the role. Paul Ryan, we remember Paul Ryan and his fucking crazy ass, and some other GOP players behind the scenes had pressured Trump to appoint Reince, arguing that he helped bring the Republican establishment into line. Trump would have preferred one of his own people, Jared Kushner, David Bossie, or Corey Lewandowski, but Ryan pushed back on the loyal followers and experience, which as a government official he should have. From the beginning, the GOP was putting up safety guardrails so that Donald wouldn't drive the U.S. government over a cliff. So this is why I get so annoyed when I think about this election, because these motherfuckers, they knew their candidate was trash. They knew he wasn't qualified. But they stayed in formation. Like, these people will do anything to win, even if it means doing a disservice to the entire country. This shit is crazy. I like Reince, but he and Donald were a very bad fit. Trump demands loyalty. He can't work closely with people who have shown any sign of weakness or doubt. Unfortunately, that was all Donald knew of Reince. When the Access Hollywood story had broken, reportedly, Reince and senior advisors met privately with Trump and said, you have two choices. Either you lose by the biggest landslide in presidential election history, or you drop out right now. So, bitch, they came to him like, bitch, you gonna lose. You gonna drop out. It is what it is. Like, they didn't expect for him to win. Crazy. People in the room said at that time that Donald was defiant, looked Reince in the face and said, I'm not dropping out, I'm going to win. He never let Reince, or anyone for that matter ever, forget that Reince wanted him to drop out. He would demean Reince and mock that moment of weakness. Reince was starting with 2 strikes against him. So why did Donald give in to the GOP and Speaker Ryan? Good question. He really did want to be a good president and keep his campaign promise. If putting Reince in would make peace with the never-Trumpers and the GOP, then it was worth it. So he did that shit as a lateral move, which when he do shit like that, it makes me understand that the man is not crazy. He's not that far off. You know what I'm saying? Like, he know what he be doing. He just act crazy when it worked for him. But when he need to make real decisions, he do it. So he playing with us, yo. He playing with our country. But nevertheless, around this time, immediately after the election, my longtime agent, John Seitzer from the Agency of Performing Arts, the APA, in Beverly Hills started calling me about job offers. So that's a bunch of shit. She talked about how people wanted her to be on shows. Don't nobody give a fuck, bitch. Okay. Yeah, don't nobody care. Next part. Pence was about assembling transition vice chairman. Loyal Trump people, including General Michael Flynn, Crook, Jeff Sessions, racist, Newt Gingrich, bitch, and Rudy Giuliani. Bitch, you might as well call that the Legion of Doom, bitch. You might as well call Wonder Woman and all that, bitch. What the fuck is going on here? Nevertheless, all white men, all controversial figures, and all riled by Democrats. He also appointed an executive committee that included venture capitalist Peter Thiel, VIP donor Rebecca Mercer, Reince Priebus, Anthony Scaramucci, that's Botox man with his eyes all the way up here, Steve Mnuchin, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump, and Jared Kushner and Omarosa. Bitch, if that ain't a rogues gallery, if I ain't never seen one in my goddamn life. As usual, in Trump world, there was little to no diversity. I was the only African-American woman on the executive committee. I was honored by the appointment to serve among this group of trusted, revered people in Trump world, placed on the same level as his children and future cabinet members. Or so you thought, bitch, but we gonna get into that. But I was worried that the lack of diverse voices might get us started in the wrong track. If I didn't go back to D.C. and be part of Trump's White House, what other black woman in Trump's would be in Trump's orbit? I was the only one in a unique position to keep Trump accountable for his "what do you have to lose" campaign promises to people of color. As soon as I officially joined the transition team, I wrote down every promise and commitment Trump had made to black and brown people during the campaign. From Chicago to Flint to young black men to Haiti to the black church to fight poverty, to improve public education, to end gang warfare on the streets. I considered it my personal priorities list moving forward. Now, let's pause here for just a second. She kind of has a point, because as we read through this, you're going to see what happened with the meetings with some of our other black leaders. No shade, but you're going to see what happens. You need somebody in there. Not saying Omarosa is the best person, but considering this peanut gallery they got going on, she's the only bitch with real White House experience, as we found out 2 episodes ago. More controversies came up daily. Okay? Taking precious time away from the impossible mission of assembling a team to start after Inauguration Day. Trump requested top security clearance for Jared Kushner, setting off cries of nepotism. By the way, Donald wasn't always such a fan of Jared. When he and Ivanka first started dating, I asked Donald what he thought of Jared. He seems a little sweet to me. So, no shade, and you know I'm spicy. If you haven't figured it out by now, we know our girls. And no shade, Jared is giving one of the girls, bitch. No shade. So I'm not even mad at Donald for thinking that. And no shade, the way they crazy as shit, he might still be one of the girls. Ivanka might be fucking a security guard at Tiffany's, bitch. You don't even know. Anyway, Trump gave the press the slip in New York in order to go out for a steak dinner, causing outrage for his lack of seriousness. While he was taking meetings at Trump Tower with Henry Kissinger and the Prime Minister of Japan, everyone on the executive committee, through weekly conference calls, was strategizing how to get things done. Simply put, we were scrambling. Bitch, we knew that. We watched the news. We were woefully unprepared and overwhelmed, and the clock was ticking. Mike Pence didn't seem to know how to get the job done. You think, bitch, he looked ditzy. There was simply too much to do. Not enough time, and not much experience among the staff we were selecting, most of whom had never worked in Washington before. So we are getting ready to hand the country over to a group of inexperienced people who have no idea how to run a goddamn warehouse, let alone a goddamn country. And the only person in this situation with documented White House and government experience is fucking Omarosa, bitch. As for Trump, he was riding high. We were in the Presidential Transition Committee office, and he was in Trump Tower. Whenever he was giving reports, they were upbeat only. As far as he knew, everything was fine, and we were chugging along. So basically, they was lying to him and telling him everything fine. Whole time, the shit is in shambles, okay? The top advisors would give him a list of tasks. Meet with someone or choose a cabinet pick. But he wasn't involved or aware of just how much there was to do and how much was getting done. Now, this is the shade, bitch. If Hillary Clinton had won, she would have brought in her 800-member campaign staff, along with people who'd worked in her husband's administration and coasted right through the transition. We only had 130. Hillary, 800. Donald Trump, 130 people to do all this shit. She'd been through a transition before and knew exactly what it entailed. To put it bluntly, we hadn't and didn't. In fact, the transition office was decorated in a way that assumed that Hillary, not Trump, would win. So the White House and the career government was like, oh, this motherfucker ain't winning. We ain't even going to entertain this shit. The spouse suite was done up in masculine colors and the presidential offices were feminine colors. Okay, so they are the White House thinking, oh, Trump ain't coming in here, bitch. They had Clinton office ready, Bill office ready, and Hillary office ready, bitch. Melania took one look at that office space and relocated to working out of the presidential suite at the Trump Hotel in D.C. We also noticed that there were more than 900 workspaces, more than enough room to accommodate the voluminous Clinton campaign team. So even the White House, let's think about this. Even the White House, you know, the people behind the scenes that have worked in government for years, they didn't even prepare for Donald to be there. They just knew, like the rest of us, just knew that ain't no way in the hell this man is winning this election. For a while, we spun our wheels. And then, on November 18th, Congress left for Thanksgiving break, and we were stalled again. I was commuting between Trump Tower in New York for meetings, the transition offices in D.C., and Jacksonville, Florida, where I was planning my wedding. I was exhausted from travel and the uphill battle of filling some of these 4,000 empty seats with diverse, qualified people. 4,000 jobs. Remember when they was putting that shit on Craigslist and shit, bitch? You want to work for the White House, bitch? Oh, okay. Got you. Bitch, I could have got a job at the White House, bitch. I should have put in. A nearly impossible task. I frequented the fifth floor where the presidential personnel offices were located, asking daily for an update on printouts of diverse applicants from our database. The applications trickled in, but many were fraudulent submissions and profiles or had an insulting message in the body of the resumes. Oh my God. At a November 29th transition staff meeting, I said to the room, Donald Trump wants an administration that looks like America. Lies. Which he'd expressed to me personally and I believe to be true. Falling just short of saying, please don't hire a bunch of white people. Advisors Rick Dearborn, Sebastian Gorka, Bob Paduchik, Ohio State Director for the campaign, and Ashley Bell nodded in agreement. I reinforced this message publicly, telling the Hollywood Reporter, Donald Trump has given me a personal directive that with the 4,000 jobs we need to fill, he wants his administration to be the most diverse in history. I solicited resumes nationwide on my social media, TV, and radio appearances. You know shit gotta be bad when you on Facebook asking motherfuckers do they want to work for the White House. Like, really, bitch? When does that happen? When did that ever happen? I've never heard of no crazy ass shit like that. Okay? I solicited resumes. I also set out to build the foundation of Trump's Office of Public Liaison, the department that engaged with veterans, faith-based groups, diverse peoples, and civil rights organizations. I hope to be his director in good time and focus my efforts there. She's going to find out soon enough. It was hardly an organized process. Trump's was probably the most bizarre transition in the history of this country. He is a New York showman, and everything had to be a Broadway production. His candidates had to present themselves to him at Bedminster, his golf course in New Jersey, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, or Trump Tower in Manhattan, and walk before a spray of photographers like the Miss USA beauty pageant runway for their audience with King Trump. The selection process for his cabinet was like an episode of The Bachelor. The candidates fought to win the figurative rose. Now, think back, guys, to after the election, we were all depressed and drinking Malibu and pineapple juice. And remember when he was having all these meetings at Mar-a-Lago and all of this shit, and you had people showing up at the offices and they having all these crazy ass meetings. This is around that time. One of our campaign slogans had been drain the swamp, but the cabinet quickly filled with swamp creatures, mainly white men, each new tax setting off a firestorm of criticism. As people called out the hypocrisy, Donald reveled in the headlines and will often pretend to choose a controversial candidate just to get the attention of the press. So he was playing with people. He wasn't even, some of these people wasn't even going to get the job. He was just shouting them out just for press. Like, what kind of shit? Like, you playing with the fucking country? Really? Let's play Connect the Smart Dots. So this way it get good, bitch. Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General was announced on November 18th. Apparent payback for his support during the campaign as the first senator to come out to support Donald. Trump chooses loyalty over logic. We all know that at this point. His obsession causes him to make bad decisions. If you looked at Sessions' credentials and his tremendous baggage, you would have known that that was a terrible choice. He'd been denied a federal judgeship in 1986, in part because of his alleged use of the N-word and jokes about the KKK. But Trump wanted him for Attorney General. Why? Because he had been loyal to Trump when everyone else was mocking him and calling his run a joke. The outrage was justified and definite, but Trump ignored it. Y'all remember that shit with Jeff Sessions when, you know, all of that shit came out and it was crazy. But he still picked him. Billionaire Betsy DeVos, bitch, whom Trump calls Ditsy DeVos behind her back. That's going in the lexicon. Was selected as Secretary of Education. She is the sister of Eric Prince, who is now, sidebar, who is now cooperating with the Mueller investigation. The founder of Blackwater, now known as Academy, or Academa, I don't know what the fuck that is. The private security firm the U.S. government contracted to support its forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, where its mercenaries killed more than a dozen civilians. DeVos and her family members have reportedly donated tens of millions over the years to Republicans, including nearly $1 million to senators who would vote to confirm her appointment. So basically, she paid for her job, okay? She paid for it. And they knew she wasn't qualified, but they gave it to her because her ass paid for most of them goddamn people that confirmed her ass sitting on that bench. That's how she got that job. The November 23rd announcement that DeVos had been chosen to lead the Department of Education set off an explosion of anxiety. Given her utter lack of experience and her advocacy for charter schools and the privatization of public education, Trump had promised to improve public education in depressed areas, but her picks here said otherwise. She paid for her job. She paid for her position. She bought it. Bottom line and flat out. ExxonMobil CEO and corporate millionaire Rex Tillerson was recommended for Secretary of State by Condoleezza Rice and James Baker, two former Secretaries of State. So he was recommended by two former Secretaries of State. I want y'all to get in the real reason why he was recommended. All three, Condoleezza Rice, James Baker, and Rex Tillerson had business ties to ExxonMobil. Baker's law firm represented the company. So Baker, former Secretary of State, represented ExxonMobil. That's why he recommended Rex Tillerson. Rice and Gates worked for ExxonMobil via Rice Hadley Gates, their consulting firm. So Condoleezza Rice her consulting firm consults ExxonMobil. So she recommended him because ExxonMobil is bankrolling her consulting firm. Ain't this some shit, bitch? I tell you, Shonda Rhimes, bitch. This is the next season. Bring one season of Scandal, bitch. All you gotta just read the book, bitch. The choice smells swampy. No fucking shade. Steve Mnuchin was tapped for Secretary of the Treasury on November 30th, which was quickly followed by derision. He was a Goldman Sachs billionaire countless times. Trump rallied against Hillary Clinton's cozy relationships with Wall Streeters. I met Mnuchin on Trump Force One when he was the head of finance for the campaign. And we worked together on my first fundraising email blast. We talked a lot about Hollywood and the movies he produced, such as The Legend of Tarzan, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Mad Max Fury Road. So you basically was going to appoint somebody that made repeatedly bad comic book films to be the goddamn Secretary of Treasury, bitch? Oh my God. He was the ultimate Wall Street type. A walking advertisement of everything we campaign against. Bitch, you can't make this shit up. Oh my God. Everybody liked to point out Donald Trump's obsession with generals. He confided to me he thought the generals would send a message to the world that he was a badass. So we watched him bring the stars and bars into the cabinet or to cabinet level positions. That was a nice bar, Omarosa. You might have a rap career, bitch. General Michael Flynn. That's the motherfucker that kept saying lock her up at the Republican National Convention. That's lock her up. Okay. Michael Flynn is National Security Advisor, who was replaced soon after by General H.R. McMaster, who has since been replaced by the non-General John Bolton, bitch. Retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg as Chief of Staff and Executive Secretary of the National Security Council, who now serves as National Security Advisor to Mike Pence. General Jim Mattis as Secretary of Defense, and General John Kelly, who we all know is now the Chief of Staff, who fired Omarosa, as Secretary of Homeland Security. The left complained that Trump was militarizing the executive branch. I mean, it's facts. It's the truth. While all of this was going on, the team realized that the president-elect missed the energy, excitement, and validation of the campaign trail. They took a victory lap to swing states called the USA Thank You Tour. I tell you, these motherfuckers love to go on tour, bitch. Now, mind you, let's backtrack here. There are 4,000 jobs that need to be filled that they don't have filled, with only 130 people working this goddamn transition, and they decide to go on tour, bitch. Oh my God. I was invited to attend the Hershey, Pennsylvania rally on December 15th and watch Trump's address from backstage with Steve Bannon and Pennsylvania State Director David Urban, a senior advisor on the campaign who had helped secure Pennsylvania's win. Now, I want y'all to listen to this exchange between Omarosa and Steve Bannon. It's quite interesting. I had an interesting conversation with Bannon and asked him if the rumors of his being a racist were true. Now, knowing how Omarosa is, I can believe she asked that, because that bitch, she direct, she ain't got no cut cards. I can believe she asked him this. He said no. He explained, the same way you're a proud African-American woman, I'm a proud white man. What's the difference between my pride and your pride, he asked. Omarosa goes, hate defines white supremacy. This is what she's saying. She said, I kind of believe she said it, but in the context of who's saying it, I'm like, okay, bitch. Okay, he didn't back down and gave an impassioned defense of the alt-right. Just as he was getting revved up, the announcer came on and said, ladies and gentlemen, the president-elect of the United States, Donald J. Trump. The crowd went crazy, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is where he meets Kanye. On the morning of December 13th, Kanye West came to the Trump Tower to meet with President-elect Trump. Kanye said he wanted to discuss multicultural issues and tweeted, I feel it is important to have a direct line of communication with our future president if we truly want change. It was a sentiment I agreed with, although many of his fans weren't happy to see him with Trump. Facts. I went on cable news that night to defend the meeting, although I was growing more and more concerned about the perception of those meetings with celebrities. But that was just Trump the showman. He always met with famous people. I think his personal transition from celebrity to president was installed and admired as the largest transition push. So we met with Kanye West. Okay. We all know what's going on with Kanye West. I'm not saying anything because I am a rapper and he got hot beats. On January 4th, I arranged my first major transition briefing with African American leadership. I invited about 100 African American civil rights and education group leaders from the NAACP, historically black colleges, and black churches to Washington, D.C. for a listening session with Trump officials Ken Blackwell, his domestic policy chairman, and 11 other senior advisors from the transition team. It was an extremely productive event, with open engagement between the leaders and the Trump team. I thought we were setting a precedent for the future and laying a foundation for moving policy forward. At its conclusion, everyone said positive things. How wonderful it was, how we should keep going, blah, blah, blah. You know all the shit when people be like, basically they had a meeting. It was like, let's work, bro. Like, let's work, bro. I'm here. Hit me up. I'm in LA. You know, one of those kind. That's basically what the fuck was going on, okay? I felt optimistic about the meeting. Finally, after a month of trying to build momentum and set a tone before the inauguration, I made some progress. Hillary O. Shelton, NAACP Washington Bureau Director and Senior Vice President for Advocacy and Policy, said the meeting could be a great start. What happens at this point is in the hands of the administration. That's a fact. That next week, I got an email from a representative for TV host Steve Harvey, bitch. A native of Cleveland, Ohio, requesting a meeting with President-elect Trump, stating, Mr. Harvey knows that for our country to succeed, the President-elect has to succeed. I submitted the email and a scheduling request to the President's office and was surprised that 4 days later, the meeting was in motion for January 13th. See, he thinks that we live for celebrities, which is kind of true. Motherfuckers, you know, we have as Americans, and there's black people too, black and white people, we have a way of, like, identifying with celebrities and people that we like and looking at them in roles that really don't fit them. Like, Steve Harvey, what the fuck you meeting with the president with Trump for? Like, what policy are you going to push? Like let's look at the optics here of that. Like, really, Steve Harvey, what is Steve Harvey really going to do in a Trump meeting, bitch? He's a fucking comedian and talk show host, and he do Family Feud Monday through Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What the fuck he got to do with a guy? Never mind. Okay. All right. It was only a week away from the inauguration. I knew he had more pressing demands. I was also concerned about it. Thus far, the only black men Trump had met with had been actors, rappers, and sports stars. Optics matters, and that's no motherfucking shade. If Trump was going to look presidential and substantive on diversity issues, we had to stop the parade of black male celebrities through Trump Tower. I don't know how I feel about that wording, but I kind of get what she's saying. But, okay. Steve and Trump talked about various things, including golf for 15 minutes, and then they posed for a quick photo. After Trump left, Harvey gave an interview to reporters saying that Barack Obama had encouraged Harvey to meet with Trump to begin a dialogue. Bitch! When Barack tell you to go meet with Trump, bitch? See, Steve Harvey, you tried it, bitch. I don't think Michelle and Barack told you to go meet with Donald Trump, bitch. Number one, do you have a direct line to Barack, bitch? Like, really? Don't be trying to throw Barack in this. You trying to throw Barack in this. See this? He trying to throw Barack in it so he can kind of get the cosign so it don't look too bad. But according to this document, bitch, you didn't get anything accomplished. All y'all talked about was golf and probably can you get a syndication deal. So what did you accomplish? You went and had a meeting. What it smells like, niece, is a stunt queen PR stunt. Okay? You wanted PR because Family Feud viewership is dipping. So you decided to meet with Trump. And they're going to try to blame it on Barack. Bitch, bye. Anyway. So Omarosa even raised the eyebrow. She goes, my eyebrow went up. That was an interesting spin on things. Back on December 10th, 2015, I had gone on Steve Harvey's TV show, and he praised Donald, saying, in case you're wondering where I stand on Donald Trump, I love his golf courses. I love his buildings. I like him as a guy. If he becomes president of the United States in 8 years, I'm running. After the convention, his booking producer sent a request for candidate Trump or me, his diversity director, to appear on his show. The fallout from his January 2017 visit to Trump Tower was immediate and far-fetching. His viewership took a severe hit, and he stated on his radio show, meeting with Trump was the worst mistake of my life. You know why it was the worst mistake of your life? And no shade, I love Steve Harvey. I watched the Steve Harvey show, Family Feud, all that shit. But when you do things for press and publicity and it's not authentic, people can sniff that out. And that's why it was the worst mistake of your life. Not because y'all had a bad meeting. It's because you went in there with false intentions. Okay? That's why it was the worst mistake of your life. And you paid for it. Next! Congressman John Lewis, the civil rights icon who was one of the original freedom riders in the 1960s, went on Meet the Press on January 14th and said the Trump presidency was illegitimate and that he intended to boycott the inauguration. Trump wasted no time in responding on Twitter, writing, Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime infested. Rather than falsely complaining about the election results, all talk, no actions or results. Sad. I was livid and called him to ask him, why are you doing this? John Lewis is one of the most respected men in America, not to mention a civil rights icon. You have to stop this. He took the first shot, said Donald. If he hits me, I hit back. I explained to him that acting presidential was not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Take the high road when people attack you. Almost surprised and caught off guard by how upset I was about his attacks on Lewis, Donald simply said, well, he started it, Omarosa. He's a fucking child, Joe. Really? He started it, Omarosa? Really? What? Really? I could not believe that Trump would insult a man who had his head bashed in for civil rights and who was attacked by police dogs and fire hoses. Also, in true Trump timing, I had been planning a meeting with Martin Luther King III, whose father had led the movement that Lewis was a part of. So basically, him and Martin Luther King III meets. It's not really eventful. He says some nice shit. Hopefully it's positive and we'll have a great presidency, blah, blah, blah. It was exactly the tone and message I've been trying to set since I joined the campaign and transition team, to bring people together to solve our nation's problems. I wish more black leaders would have come in and talked to Trump so we can get the dialogue started. I extended an invitation to Al Sharpton of National Action Network, Melanie Campbell, CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, and Governor of the Black Women's Roundtable, and Mark Morial of the National Urban League. But unfortunately, they never committed. Now, here's where I have a problem with that. Those are the people that should have been meeting with Trump. Not Steve Harvey, not Kanye West. Those are the people who we needed to be meeting with Trump, didn't meet with him. He meeting with people who basically want a photo op. This the shit that make me mad, y'all. This the shit that make me mad. And I don't, I have no ties with these people. I'm a regular citizen. I really don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, I'm annoyed that the people that should have been in them offices wasn't. I'm annoyed by that. And you should be annoyed by that too. Okay? While I was setting my policy agenda during the transition, I was also working with ranks throughout December to lock down when my position would be formally announced. Now, this is the section where Omarosa slowly gets reminded that she's black and her services are really no longer needed. The transition was sending out daily announcements about one appointment or another, but ranks had yet to announce mine. Like all the future senior staff, I was asked to give the president a list of the top 3 positions I wanted to be considered for. I wrote down only one, Director of Office of Public Liaison, a title once held by Elizabeth Dole under Ronald Reagan and Valerie Jarrett under Obama. Okay? I was sure it was mine. I didn't even bother including 2 other options. Valerie Jarrett, I believe that's the lady that Roseanne said looked like the lady from Planet of the Apes and got her whole shit like crashed. I was summoned to Mar-a-Lago in mid-December to discuss my White House position with Reince. I assumed it was just a formality to button down the announcement date and to help put together quotes for my press release as the director of OPL. So imagine, like, this is like the equivalent of Omarosa getting dressed for prom and, like, getting all pretty and taking her pictures. She got her heels, she done got her bang wrap done, and she get to the door and her date don't show up, bitch. But then Reince blindsided me and told me there were a dozen or so people he was considering for the job, including me. Gagged her. He suggested that because of my prior experience as Deputy Associate Director of Presidential Personnel in the Clinton White House, I should consider taking a job in that department. So we've all had that thing where, as black people, you want a specific thing, or you go to the dealership and you want that car. I want that car. And they tell you, well, let's go for something a little bit more in your price range, or that's more realistic. That's the equivalent of what's going on here. I had toured and labored as vice chair of the National Diversity Coalition and as the director of African American Outreach. The natural transition for me would be into the OPL, the Office of Public Liaison. He said, we have to figure something else out because there are just so many other people being considered for the OPL. What do you know about public liaison anyway? Have you ever organized a coalition? Now, let's unpack this. He just asked her, what do you know? The black woman who actually has fucking experience working in the White House, has headed committees, okay, is educated, is an ordained minister. He asked her what her qualifications are, but they just appointed Betsy DeVos to head the Department of Education, bitch. A bitch that paid for her seat and has no experience in that. But you gonna ask the black woman who actually have experience and credentials, what is her qualifications? You always black, bitch. Remember that. He needed to be reminded about the National Diversity Coalition. We built that from scratch. From the website on up, on our own dime. We organized all those events with hundreds of groups. I ran through my entire resume, including my run for Los Angeles School Board and my military service, my fundraising experience, and my diversity outreach. He seemed unimpressed. Reince could be very slippery. Even with all them receipts, and they still asking, are you qualified? I asked Reince, I'm curious about your overall plan for diversity in the White House. Even at that early stage, the cabinet was painted whiter than a picket fence, except for Ben Carson, which might as well have been a white person, and Elaine Childs, the Secretary of Transportation. I added, the cabinet needs to be diverse, so do the assistants to the president. The highest appointees in the White House besides the cabinet are called assistants to the president. It's actually a rank, like in the military. Assistants to the presidents are at the top of the food chain. Most presidents have 20 to 25. Trump would end up appointing 30. Under the APs are deputy assistants, and under that, special assistants to the president. My top priority, I told Reince, is to be an AP. That is a must. And I want Ashley Bell to be an AP too. Ashley, a guy, was my colleague and friend, currently on Reince's staff as the head of African American Outreach for the RNC. Reince didn't love that idea and said he'd intended to make Ashley a SAP. So basically, the black man can't be an assistant to the president, but he can be a junior. Like, you can't be a manager, but you can be a key holder, bitch. That's basically what he's saying, okay? That felt like another slap. Ashley was extremely qualified and the only hope of having an African-American male appointed to the senior staff of the White House. Reince kept stonewalling me, but I didn't budge. As fate would have it, I was just about to text Keith Schiller to ask for 5 minutes with Trump. Reince's phone rang, and lo and behold, it was Donald himself. Reince said, "Hello, sir. Yes, I'm meeting with Omarosa right now." Then Trump told him to put her on the phone. Donald and I discussed his dinner plans for the night. Katrina Campins, my apprentice roommate, had come with me to Mar-a-Lago to discuss our outreach for the Latino community and would be joining us. Bolstered by the call, I said to Ranks, I'd like to be an assistant to the president and a director of the OPL. She was like, bitch, I got daddy on the phone. He said you can't stay here. Like, bitch, Omarosa is funny. Okay. Ranks gulped and said, I'll see what I can do. When Ranks next called, it was to say that someone had placed a strong objection to me being put in charge of the OPL. Who, I asked? Paula White. She wants to go into some other, wants you to go into some other position. And Omarosa is like, what are you talking about? What does Paula White have to do? Paula White. So let's get into who Paula White is, because this is interesting. Paula White is a televangelist, bitch. A televangelist, okay, who has say on what government jobs people get. She's the spiritual advisor of Donald Trump. Her ministry was one of the 6 that had been investigated by the Senate Committee on Finance for improprieties. The ministries teach the controversial prosperity gospel. So basically, she like, you know, the TV preachers and shit that be telling you bring down $20, $50, $100. She one of those girls that equates material wealth with Christian faith. And the minister's lavish spending, coupled with their church's tax-exempt status, raised questions. White refused to cooperate with the investigation, and no penalties were levied against her when it concluded in 2011. So basically, the bitch was balling, didn't have to pay no taxes, and said basically, fuck y'all, and then closed the investigation. This is the bitch who has influence over Donald Trump as to who gets what job in what government agency, bitch. This is crazy, okay? I'd run into Paula at the convention, and she had been very nice to me. So I was shocked to hear that she was trying to stab me in the back. Why would she feel she had the authority to tell Ranks not to hire me in that position? Well, Trump had given her a role as an outside advisor on matters of faith. The OPL's portfolio included faith issues. Aha. I was an ordained minister, a military chaplain, and an unapologetic missionary Baptist. You learn something new about this bitch every day. I did not know she was a minister. An ordained minister and a chaplain. No shade. Like, ooh. She was an evangelist. There had long been a power struggle between African-American clergies and evangelists in Trump world. I made the logical leap that Paula White wanted an evangelical to have control over Trump's faith agenda. Ranks had been careless to tell me about her objection and cavalier in his delivery of the news. I immediately called Pastor Darrell Scott and Michael Cohen and learned that my fears were accurate. Both affirmed. Yes, she doesn't want you as the head of OPL because you're not an evangelical. We're giving TV preachers clearance on giving people government jobs. That's what we doing? Really? I was incensed. I got on the phone with Paula, and we had a heated exchange. So basically, Omarosa probably told her, bitch, you tried it. What the fuck is you talking about? Girl, I've been working all these hours doing this shit, and you tried me? Like, bitch. And then Paula, you know how, no shade, sometimes white women, y'all like to play the 50. Girl, I ain't say that, bitch. What is you talking about? He lied, girl. I don't have no idea. That's basically what happened. She said, you're misunderstanding me. I was just advising Donald that maybe you prefer to work in a presidential personnel. Maybe you could be the head of presidential personnel. I'm only trying to be helpful. Bitch, if that ain't a call center answer, if I ain't never heard about, I'm just trying to be helpful. No, bitch, you're busy. Shout out to Roz. Her condensation oozed. My indignation must have struck some chords, but not quite loudly enough. Ranks came back to me with the title of AP and Director of Communications for the Office of Public Liaison. So basically, they gave her the title of assistant to the president, but she didn't really get the job that she really was kind of qualified for and should have got. They gave it to somebody else. So apparently, the person who was really going to get the job, and we're going to wrap this up soon because Paula getting ready to come on, and I got to get ready for Insecure. Okay. Anthony Scaramucci was going to be heading that. This would never manifest because Scaramucci's businesses came under scrutiny during his background check. The White House Ethics Office discovered that a deal under which he would sell his controlling interest in Skybridge Capital, his hedge fund network, to H&A Group, a Chinese company, was under government review, creating a potential conflict of interest for Scaramucci. Eventually, George Sefakis from the RNC became the OPL director, though he lasted less than 6 months. The details about the inauguration ceremony were front burned. The PIC sent a list of to-dos to Trump Tower. The one item was Donald's choosing a Bible to be sworn in on. Traditionally, the president-elect would visit the National Archives with a guide and select one from the vast collection of his historical Bibles that had personal meaning to him or was previously owned by someone with a shared political philosophy or worldview, or that had an affinity for. Barack Obama, an Illinois native and a black man, chose the same Bible that Abraham Lincoln was sworn in on, as well as the traveling Bible of Martin Luther King Jr. John Quincy Adams was sworn in on a constitutional law book because that held meaning for him. George Washington was sworn in on his own Masonic Bible, which Warren G. Harding, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and George H.W. Bush had since placed their hands upon during their inauguration ceremonies. Others chose a family Bible. Ronald Reagan used his mother's well-read and annotated Bible. JFK used the Fitzgerald family Bible. Donald mentioned to me, y'all gotta get ready for this. Donald mentioned to me that he would have to make this choice and wasn't inspired by his options. It's not mandatory that new presidents swear in on a Bible, but most have done so. He asked me, Omarosa, what do you think about me getting sworn in on the art of the deal? For those of you who don't know and don't care, The Art of the Deal is one of Donald Trump's books. I said, instead of the Bible, yeah, The Art of the Deal is a bestseller. It's the greatest business book of all time. It's how I'm going to make great deals for the country. Just think how many copies I'd sell. Maybe a commemorative inauguration copy. Bitch! This is your president. Y'all, I'm too through. I know you're not going to be a traditional president, but that's just too crazy. Whatever you do, don't repeat that idea to anybody else, I say. 2 things to discuss here. 1, Donald Trump has no knowledge of the Bible at all. It might as well be a paper brick to him. We love the Bible. It's the best, he said during the campaign. We love The Art of the Deal, but the Bible is far, far superior. How would he know? He says he never read the Bible. When asked, he can't recite his favorite scripture or name the books. Remember when he quoted from 2 Corinthians during the campaign? I'm not saying the president has to be a biblical scholar, but he should be biblically aware. Since the Bible has little significance to him, it might have felt disingenuous to him to take an oath on it. But The Art of the Deal meant a lot to him. Nothing has more meaning to Donald than himself. Also, I think that Donald, like Ivanka, who plugged her dress at the convention, hadn't fully made the shift from being a salesman. He was hardwired to constantly promote Trump brands and properties, okay? Donald Trump had always been obsessed with ratings. He went on and on about how much the networks would make with that many eyeballs glued to their TVs. Historical ratings, he pondered. How could he capitalize on that himself, and whether it was feasible to do a pay-per-view event that would get him a piece of the action? Bitch, he wanted to do pay-per-view for the presidential inauguration, bitch. First off, bitch, we ain't watched the free broadcast. So who the fuck was paying for this pay-per-view, bitch? I'm confused. You ain't Comcast? Fuck out of here. I'm surprised to hear that Paula White was given the invocation at the inauguration. See, Omarosa, you annoying me with this dissy shit. Bitch, if she his advisor, bitch, of course she gonna do the damn shit. At Bill Clinton's 1997 inauguration, that honor went to Pastor Billy Graham. At Barack Obama's 2009 ceremony, that honor went to Myrlie Evers Williams, the widow of Medgar Evers, the slain civil rights leader. So why on earth would Paula White, the pastor at the New Destiny Christian Center, be given such a prominent, important platform, I asked. A Trump family member pulled me aside and told me to back off. When I asked why, I was told that she and Trump had enjoyed a special relationship. I think they was fucking. No shade. That's why she got that. I was not sure what to make of this. I had certainly never heard anything that made me wonder about the nature of their relationship before. But I could not stop myself from contemplating whether her position as his spiritual advisor had ever been missionary. I'm going to read this line again if you missed it. I could not stop myself from contemplating whether her position as his spiritual advisor had ever been missionary. Bitch, bars, bitch. That is a bar, bitch. That is a bar for your ass. This bitch, get out the fan, bitch. Because Omarosa throws that goddamn shade, bitch. This bitch is a masterclass in shade. This is political shade, bitch. You can't get better than this. We about to wrap this up because my show is getting ready to come on, but we got to finish this chapter, y'all. It was, of course, totally credible from his side, but I didn't really know her well enough to know if it was from hers. In any event, once I'd been warned, I reeled it in. I hadn't heard the last from Paula White, though. 6 months later, after Reince Priebus was fired, Paula came to the OPL offices for meetings, and we had a come-to-Jesus conversation about what had gone on during the transition. She claimed that Reince didn't want me as director of the OPL and had lied when he told me Paula had intervened. She apologized, and I moved on. For the inauguration... For the inauguration, the inaugural committee put my family and me at the historic Willard Intercontinental Hotel in a beautiful suite. The week before the inauguration, I had twisted my ankle painfully, but I was too busy to deal with it. Throughout breakfast, my foot swelled up like a balloon. I went to the medical team and got treated for what I thought was a sprained ankle. It ended up being much more serious. I had to wear a boot throughout the ceremony. Okay, whatever, bitch. As assistants to the president, we were introduced by one by one to the nation. I was grateful to come out of the historical tunnel with Rick Dearborn, who graciously assisted me to my seat. During the ceremony, I sat with Rona Graff, executive assistant to Donald Trump, a woman I had known for nearly 15 years. I would love to pick Rona Graff's brain. She been with Trump for forever. I know that bitch got some stories. Okay. She was so important to his life. I was happy to be seated with her. As I looked around the platform, I noticed scant diversity. Just Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, Ben Carson, and a couple of others. There should have been more. I made a vow that day to work to increase diversity in Trump world. After the ceremony, as I was headed to the motorcade, I stopped to watch the Obama's helicopter take off. It was an emotional moment. Standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, I thought about how my mom and I campaigned for then Senator Obama in our home state of Ohio, and now I was witnessing the peaceful transfer of power that is the envy of the world. Obama's departure marked the end to his presidency and the beginning of Trump's presidency. It was cold and I was shivering, but I was warm with respect and gratitude for Obama's service. One thing I gotta give her, I like that she's not trashing Obama at all so far in this book. Like, But then again, bitch, if you're doing PR because you just got fired from the Trump White House, trashing Obama wouldn't be the best move. So you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. We loaded into the motorcade and headed down Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House. My fiance and I sat in front, a row ahead of Rex Tillerson and his wife. It was my first meeting with Rex, and I liked them very much. Not a single other car was out there on Pennsylvania Avenue as we rode along with police escorts. The street was lined with servicemen standing every 5 feet. It was a thrilling, one-of-a-kind experience. Once I got inside the White House, there was a team set up to process us quickly. While I went to Roosevelt Room to receive my ID badge, laptop, and government-issued cell phone, my mom and fiance went into the Oval Office and had a look around. I'd also been given my office assignment, the security code on a piece of paper, and a White House complex map with my office circled in red. Loaded up with my equipment and code, the three of us followed the map from the West Wing to the Eisenhower Executive Office building to my new space. The walk, which I would make many hundreds of times over the next 11 months, took about 5 minutes. We got about 2 more pages, guys, and then we're done for this chapter. When we got to my new office, I used the code to enter and was pleasantly surprised by how big it was. It might have appeared enormous because it was empty, save for the desk. Wow, I said. Yes, wow, my mom agreed. My fiance said, let me go into this hallway and grab a few chairs. While he went furniture shopping, oh, okay, so she's talking about her office. Okay. 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 Okay, she's talking about, okay. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this chapter. The rest she's talking about the marching man that she raised money for, which is great. Shout out to the Marching Tornadoes, but moving on. So, let's unpack this. So, in this chapter, we basically saw how Trump met with a bunch of fucking celebrities. None of our black leadership, not to throw them under the bus, I'm not that guy, but basically everybody boycotted meeting with Trump, when in actuality, they the motherfuckers that really should have been meeting with Trump, and not Kanye West and Steve Harvey. According to Omarosa's account, Steve Harvey just wanted a goddamn photo op and some PR, and it backfired on his ass. Omarosa got reminded that she's black, and got shaded by a lifetime. We found out Donald Trump might be fucking Paula White, the TV preacher, but we don't quite know, but it's specified, it's speculated. So how do you guys feel about this? I mean, I think this is like insane. Like, this is crazy. Like, we, like, the Dixie DeVos, that's a great line though, but I just think it's crazy to me that this is what we were dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is who motherfuckers really went out and voted for. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy to me. And yes, this is one person's account. But once again, the reason why I'm reading this Omarosa book is she's the only person that's produced actual receipts. Tape don't lie. And then the bitch allegedly might have some videos. You can't dispel that. I just think that this is crazy. You know? Once again, I appreciate y'all reading for me. That we have a good time. That was it good. Now, I'm actually hosting an event tomorrow at A Day in June Boutique here in Baltimore. I've been asked to moderate a conversation amongst young black creatives and intellectuals, which I'm excited about because, you know, I'm all about that. We will reconvene on Tuesday. Let's do a reading on Tuesday. We're almost done. Now, for those of you wondering what the Secretary of Shade podcast is going to be, it's going to be weekly. It's going to be every Tuesday. And we're going to talk about politics, pop culture, because, you know, I love my award shows and shit, bitch. Scandal. Well, not Scandal no more, but, you know, Insecure, shit like that. Basically a well-rounded view of things. All the shit that kind of bypasses us because we get so much news in the news cycle. I'm going to condense that, pull out the meat, and kind of throw away the bones in an entertaining way, of course, and kind of keep everybody abreast as to what's really going on, because we got these midterm elections coming up, and we really need to show face. Once again, our black women, y'all been out there kicking ass, making differences in these midterms elections, and I support y'all. Once again, thank you for the support. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the Secretary of Shade YouTube page. We just launched that today. All of the readings are on there. Also, too, beginning on Tuesday, you can also listen to the readings on SoundCloud. Secretary of Shade has a SoundCloud page. All of the audio from the readings will be there. So you can play it in your car, you can put it in your headphones, and, you know, have a chuckle and a kiki, but be informed. I love you guys. This has been such a ride, so unexpected. I've gotten contacted by thousands of people, publishers, labels. Like, it's insane, and I have to thank y'all for that. Who knew that reading a book would turn into all of this? So basically, if you're a child watching this, a teenager, pick up a damn book. Read. It doesn't have to be autobiography, but read something. You know, expand your palate and your mind. On that note, power on, bitch. I already missed the first 14 minutes, and then Insecure come on, and I gotta cook dinner. Y'all have a good evening and be blessed. I love y'all. Shout out to my cabinet. Hashtag the cabinet. Secretary of Shade signing off.